Welcome the anointed ones. Be careful what you do next, because sometimes your next move is being studied before you even realize the game has changed. Here is something people rarely tell you. Powerful people do not always watch you when you are already successful. They often start paying attention when you become difficult to predict. The moment your usual pattern changes, your old reactions disappear, and your next decision becomes uncertain, people begin studying you more closely. And somewhere right now, someone powerful may be paying attention to what you do next. Not necessarily because they want to destroy you, not necessarily because they are planning to help you, but because they may have noticed something deeply unsettling or deeply interesting about you. You are approaching a moment where your next move could change the way they deal with you forever. This is where things become fascinating. The truly powerful are often less interested in your words than in the direction of your choices. They can survive a loud opinion. They can ignore a temporary emotion. But a person changing direction, a person refusing the path everyone expected, a person gaining access to a new level of confidence, influence, opportunity, or independence. Now that is worth watching, because people can prepare for who you were. They struggle to prepare for who you are becoming. And let's be honest, there is something almost funny about it. Some people have spent so much time believing they had you completely figured out that they have practically written a user manual about you in their heads. Press this button, they react. Remove this opportunity, they panic. Offer this, they return. But suddenly the manual is outdated. The buttons are not working. The predictable version of you is no longer answering. Somewhere somebody is probably staring at the situation like a confused technician who forgot to read the new update. But this is not a story about paranoia. It is about something far more interesting. The moment your choices become consequential enough that people with influence begin taking them seriously. It is about the uncomfortable truth that your next move can reveal what you truly value, who you are loyal to, what you are willing to risk, and whether you can be predicted, influenced, recruited, dismissed, or controlled. Someone powerful may have their eyes on your next move because they are not trying to understand your past anymore. They are trying to calculate your future. And the remarkable part is this: you may not even realize that the next decision you make could change everything they thought they knew about you. Because sometimes the most powerful move is not the move that shocks everyone. It is the move that forces everyone watching to realize they have been studying the wrong version of you all along. And in this video, we are going deep into 14 reasons someone powerful may have their eyes on your next move, and why what happens next could reveal far more about you than anyone is prepared for. Number 1, they are no longer watching your past. They are studying what you do with your future. There comes a point when your past stops being useful to the people watching you. They already know how you reacted before, what mistakes you made, what you tolerated, and where you used to hesitate. They may even have built an opinion of you around those old patterns. But something changes when you begin moving differently. Your future becomes more interesting than your history. A powerful person may start paying attention when they notice that your decisions are no longer being dictated by the same fears, habits, or need for approval. You become harder to calculate because the old version of you is no longer making the decisions. And that is where the real tension begins. They are not necessarily waiting for you to fail. They may be watching to see whether your recent growth is temporary or whether you have genuinely changed. Your next decision gives them information. It reveals whether you will return to familiar ground when pressure arrives or continue towards something bigger. The uncomfortable truth is that people often underestimate someone based on yesterday's behavior. But yesterday cannot make today's decision for you. Your next move can quietly rewrite the entire story they have attached to your name. That is why it matters. Because when someone realizes you are no longer predictable, they stop studying where you have been and start paying very close attention to where you are going. Number 2, your next decision could reveal something they have been unable to measure about you. Sometimes people can study your achievements, your habits, your words, even the way you handle pressure, and still not know what truly drives you. They can collect information about you, but information is not the same as understanding. That is why your next decision may suddenly become far more important than everything you have done before. A serious decision reveals something ordinary conversations cannot. It shows what you value when there is something real at stake. It reveals whether you choose comfort or growth, approval or conviction, quick rewards or long-term consequences. And this is where someone powerful may become especially interested, because they are not simply watching what you choose. They are studying why you chose it. One decision can expose your priorities with uncomfortable accuracy. You might think you are simply changing direction, accepting an opportunity, refusing an offer, leaving an environment, or committing yourself to something new. But to an observant person, that choice can reveal your level of courage, patience, independence, discipline, and ambition. That is why your next move deserves more thought than applause. People who have influence understand that one carefully chosen decision can tell them more about a person than years of watching from a distance. Your next move may finally answer a question they could never answer by simply observing your past. What are you actually capable of becoming? Number 3, the powerful person. Watching you may not be your enemy. They may be deciding whether you are worth the risk. Not everyone who watches your next move wants to see you fail. Sometimes attention comes from someone trying to determine whether you are worth investing in, trusting, partnering with, recommending, or bringing into a room you have never entered before. Powerful people understand that potential is not enough. They look for evidence. They may notice how you handle responsibility when nobody is praising you. They may notice whether you keep your word when it becomes inconvenient. They may watch how you respond to setbacks, criticism, pressure, or sudden opportunities. These details matter because influence comes with consequences, and nobody wants to place something valuable in the hands of someone who cannot handle it. This is where your next move becomes important. One careless decision can confirm every doubt they had. One disciplined decision can completely change their assessment of you. Suddenly, the person they considered ordinary becomes someone they need to take seriously. And here is the part most people miss. Being watched is not always a threat. Sometimes it is an evaluation. You may never receive an announcement saying, "Someone important is considering you." There may be no dramatic entrance, no secret meeting, and certainly no movie soundtrack playing in the background. Instead, the opportunity may arrive quietly after your behavior has already answered the question. Your next move could determine whether they step closer or quietly move on. Number 4, they are looking for the moment you become too independent to be controlled. There is a particular kind of person who becomes uncomfortable when they realize you no longer need their approval, permission, attention, or constant reassurance. It is not because independence is dangerous by itself. It is because independence removes leverage. When someone can predict what will make you stay, what will make you panic, or what will make you change your decision, they understand your pressure points. But the moment those pressure points stop working, their influence begins to shrink. That transformation can be surprisingly quiet. You stop explaining every decision. You stop chasing people who deliberately distance themselves. You stop accepting opportunities simply because someone important offered them. Most importantly, you begin making choices based on what makes sense for your future, rather than what keeps everyone else comfortable. That is when certain observers start paying much closer attention. They may test whether your independence is genuine or just temporary confidence. They may watch what happens when you face rejection, criticism, temptation, or an offer that comes with strings attached. Because real independence is not shouting, "I don't need anybody." It is being able to say, "I appreciate what you offer, but I will not betray my judgment to keep it." That kind of person is difficult to manipulate. And once someone realizes their usual methods no longer work on you, they may stop trying to control your next move and start carefully studying it instead. Number 5, what makes you dangerous to them is not your strength. It is what you finally understand about yourself. Strength can attract attention, but self-understanding changes the entire equation. When you finally understand your own values, weaknesses, boundaries, and motives, other people lose some of their ability to steer you without your noticing. Before that happens, it is easy to be pulled by approval, fear, guilt, pressure, or the desire to prove yourself. Someone can push the right emotional button and get a predictable response. But once you recognize those patterns, the trick becomes much harder to repeat. That is why personal awareness can make you surprisingly difficult to influence. You begin noticing when someone compliments you only because they want something. You recognize when criticism is meant to make you doubt yourself rather than help you improve. You understand when an opportunity is actually a trap wrapped in attractive packaging. And instead of reacting immediately, you pause. That pause is powerful. It gives you enough space to choose instead of simply respond. Someone watching you may notice this change before you even realize how significant it is. You are not necessarily louder. You are not trying to intimidate anyone. You are simply becoming harder to manipulate because you know what matters to you. And that is the uncomfortable truth. The moment you understand yourself deeply, other people have fewer places to hide their influence. Your greatest advantage may not be becoming stronger than them. It may be becoming clear enough that they can no longer make you betray yourself. Number 6, they have realized your next move could quietly change the balance of power. Power does not always change with a dramatic announcement. Sometimes it shifts through one decision that barely makes noise at all. A new connection, a refusal, a career move, a boundary, a decision to stop depending on someone, a decision to finally take yourself seriously. These things can look ordinary from the outside, yet they can completely change how people relate to you. That is why someone influential may be paying attention to what you do next. They may have noticed that you are approaching a point where you have more choices than you used to, and choices create power. When you have only one option, you negotiate from necessity. When you have several options, you negotiate from position. The fascinating part is that you do not need to announce any of this. Your behavior can reveal it. You become less desperate to be accepted. You become more selective about where your energy goes. You stop chasing opportunities that once seemed impossible. You start building quietly instead of constantly explaining yourself. Then suddenly the people who were comfortable predicting your limits have a problem. Their old calculation no longer works. They may not be watching because you have already become powerful. They may be watching because they can see the possibility of your power increasing. And sometimes the biggest shift happens before anyone else notices it. One carefully chosen move can change who needs whom, who has options, and who is suddenly paying closer attention. Number 7, they are watching. Whether you repeat the old version of yourself one more time. People often believe change is proven by what you say, but serious observers pay more attention to what you repeatedly do. Anyone can announce that they have changed. The real evidence appears when the same pressure returns and you respond differently. That may be exactly what someone powerful is watching. They have seen your old patterns. Maybe you used to react too quickly, accept less than you deserved, chase approval, or walk away from opportunities because fear convinced you to stay comfortable. Whatever the pattern was, they remember it. Now you are approaching another moment that could trigger the same reaction. This time, however, you have a choice. You can return to the familiar version of yourself, or you can finally break the pattern that kept producing the same results. That decision may seem small, but it can tell an observant person more about your growth than any speech ever could. Because real change is not proved when everything is easy. It is proved when the old temptation returns and you no longer obey it. That is the moment people notice. And here is the uncomfortable part. Sometimes the person waiting to see whether you have changed is not trying to judge you. They are trying to decide how seriously they should take you. Your next move becomes evidence. If you respond exactly as before, the old story survives. But if you respond differently, the story has to be rewritten. Number 8, your next move matters. Because they know people reveal their true nature when opportunity finally arrives. Pressure can reveal character, but opportunity can reveal something even deeper. What a person truly values when they finally have room to choose. That is why your next move may attract attention. When people have limited options, their decisions can be explained by survival, necessity, or circumstances. But when a genuine opportunity appears, excuses become less convincing. Suddenly there is a choice between what is easy and what is meaningful, between immediate attention and long-term progress, between proving yourself and actually building something. Someone experienced may understand this better than most. They know that giving a person more access, responsibility, money, influence, or freedom does not automatically make them wiser. Sometimes it simply makes their real priorities easier to see. Your next opportunity could therefore become a quiet test of character. How you handle it may reveal whether you are patient or impulsive, grateful or entitled, disciplined or easily distracted. It can show whether you understand the difference between an opportunity and a temptation wearing expensive clothes. And that distinction matters. A person watching from a position of influence may not care how impressive you looked when you had nothing to lose. They may care about what happens when you suddenly have something valuable to protect, because opportunity removes many of the excuses people use to explain their behavior. When the door finally opens, your decision tells a story, and sometimes that story determines whether another door opens afterward. Number 9. They are not afraid of what you have. They are curious about what you would do if you had more. What you have today can tell people something about you, but what you would do with more can reveal much more. More money, influence, freedom, knowledge, connections, or responsibility does not automatically create character. It often magnifies what is already there. That is why your potential can attract more attention than your current position. Someone experienced may look beyond your present circumstances and notice how you think. Do you build patiently or do you chase quick recognition? Do you help people because you genuinely care or only when there is something to gain? Do you become more disciplined when opportunities increase or more careless? These questions matter because resources give people choices, and choices expose priorities. A person who remains grounded while gaining influence can become far more significant than someone who simply collects impressive things. The powerful understand this. They know that giving someone greater access is not merely giving them an advantage, it is also revealing what they might do with that advantage. So your next move may be watched because someone sees potential that you have not fully developed yet. They are not necessarily impressed by where you stand today. They are studying your direction, because the person with little who already thinks responsibly may become extraordinary when given more. And the person who cannot handle small amounts of power may become a serious problem when handed something much bigger. Your future behavior may be the real thing they are evaluating. Number 10. The real question they are asking is whether you can be influenced. Once power enters the room, it is easy to have strong principles when nothing is being offered to you. The real test comes when influence, money, status, opportunity, or access suddenly enters the picture. That is when people discover whether your values are real or simply convenient. Someone powerful may be paying attention to exactly that. They may already know how you behave when you have nothing to gain. What they cannot know yet is how you behave when there is something significant on the table. Will you abandon your judgment because the offer looks impressive? Will you agree simply because the person making the offer has influence? Or will you remain clear-headed enough to recognize when an attractive opportunity comes with a price you should not pay? That is where your next move becomes revealing. Being independent does not mean rejecting everyone who has power. It means knowing the difference between cooperation and surrender. You can respect someone's influence without handing them control over your decisions, and that distinction is rare. People with real experience often notice it quickly. They understand that someone who cannot be bought by attention, intimidated by status, or easily pushed by pressure can become extremely valuable and extremely difficult to control. So your next decision may be less about what you gain and more about what you refuse to sacrifice. Because when power enters the room, character finally gets a price tag, and your decision reveals whether you have one. Number 11. They are studying your timing. Because your silence is no longer their main concern, your direction is. There is a difference between being quiet and being directionless. Someone can say very little while making extremely important decisions behind the scenes. That is why your timing may tell an observant person more than your words ever could. People who understand influence know that movement has a rhythm. They notice when someone suddenly becomes more selective, stops rushing, delays a decision, or begins preparing for something without announcing it. Your timing can reveal that you are no longer reacting to whatever happens around you. You are choosing when to move. That distinction matters. A rushed person is often easy to predict. Give them pressure, and they respond immediately. Give them praise, and they move toward it. Give them fear, and they retreat. But someone who has learned to pause creates uncertainty, because nobody knows exactly when they will act. And uncertainty can attract attention. The person watching you may not be waiting for you to speak. They may be watching the pattern of your decisions. When did you stop chasing? When did you start preparing? Why did you wait? Why did you suddenly act? What changed between yesterday and today? Your timing becomes a form of information. The deeper truth is that patience is not always inactivity. Sometimes it is preparation disguised as stillness. So while others may be wondering why you have not moved yet, someone paying close attention may understand something different. You are not standing still. You are deciding when the move is worth making. Number 12. Your next move may force them to reveal where they actually stand with you. Sometimes you do not need to confront anyone to discover their true position. You simply need to change your behavior. When you stop over-explaining, stop chasing approval, set a reasonable boundary, accept a new opportunity, or choose a different direction, people have to respond to the new version of the situation. And their response can reveal far more than their previous words ever did. That is why your next move can become so revealing. Someone who genuinely respects you may adjust naturally. Someone who only valued your availability may suddenly become distant. Someone who benefited from your uncertainty may try to pull you back into the old pattern. And someone who quietly supports your growth may become even more encouraging when they see you taking yourself seriously. None of this requires drama. Your decision simply removes the comfortable middle ground. People can say they support you while your choices remain convenient for them. But when your next move changes the arrangement, their behavior becomes harder to disguise. That is the interesting part. You are not forcing anyone to reveal themselves. You are simply making a decision that requires them to respond honestly. And sometimes the reaction tells you everything. A person who becomes angry because you finally established a healthy boundary may be telling you something important. A person who respects it without making you feel guilty is telling you something too. Your next move may therefore do more than change your direction. It may quietly reveal who was standing beside you, who was standing behind you, and who was only standing there because you made life convenient for them. Number 13, they are watching, because you have reached the point where your choices can no longer be dismissed as accidents. At some point, a pattern becomes too obvious to ignore. One good decision can be luck, two can be coincidence. But when your choices repeatedly begin moving you in a different direction, people start realizing that something has changed. That is when your next move becomes interesting. You may have spent years making decisions that others could easily explain away. They saw your mistakes and called them mistakes. They saw your setbacks and assumed they defined you. They saw your potential, but treated it like something that would never become reality. Then your behavior started changing. You became more deliberate. You stopped making decisions simply to keep people comfortable. You began choosing long-term results over immediate approval. You became more careful about where your energy went and more serious about what you were building. Eventually, people have to update their opinion of you. This is especially noticeable to anyone with influence because patterns are easier to trust than promises. You do not have to announce that you are becoming more disciplined. Repeated decisions will demonstrate it for you. And that creates a strange kind of attention. People who once considered your progress temporary may start watching to see what happens next. They are no longer looking at isolated events. They are looking at a trajectory. Your choices are beginning to form a direction. And once that direction becomes clear, dismissing you becomes much harder. The next move matters because it may not be another random decision. It may be the evidence that everything before it was leading somewhere. Number 14, the most important person. Watching your next move may be you, because this decision could end an entire pattern. After all the attention, analysis, and speculation about who may be watching you, there is one truth that matters most. Your next move belongs to you. Other people can observe your choices, interpret them, underestimate them, or even try to influence them. But they cannot live with the consequences of those choices for you. That responsibility remains yours. Sometimes the biggest decision is not about gaining something new. It is about finally refusing to repeat something old. You stop returning to the same situation expecting a different result. You stop accepting the same treatment and calling it patience. You stop making decisions from fear simply because fear feels familiar. You stop sacrificing your future to protect a version of yourself that no longer fits who you are becoming. That is where a real turning point begins, and it does not always look dramatic. There may be no announcement, no applause, and no audience. Just one private decision that changes what you will tolerate, pursue, or prioritize from that moment forward. That decision can end a pattern that has followed you for years. The powerful person watching may eventually lose interest. Other people may misunderstand. Some may never recognize what changed, but you will know, because the most important evidence that you have changed is not someone else's reaction. It is your ability to make a different choice when the old choice would have been easier. Your next move is not merely about where you are going. It is about who you refuse to become again. The final move is yours. At the end of everything, the most important lesson is simple. Your next move matters because it reveals who you are becoming. Someone may be watching. Someone may be evaluating your choices, studying your direction, measuring your consistency, or quietly trying to understand what you are capable of. But do not become so focused on who is watching that you forget who is actually holding the steering wheel. You are. Your past may have given people an opinion about you, but your future gives you the opportunity to prove that opinion incomplete. Your next decision can show discipline where there used to be hesitation, clarity where there used to be confusion, and courage where fear once had the final word. And remember, not every powerful person watching you is against you. Some may be waiting to see whether you are ready for greater responsibility. Others may be discovering that the version of you they thought they understood no longer exists. That is why you do not need to perform for the audience. You need to make the right move for your life. Do not rush because someone is watching. Do not change direction simply because someone is judging. And do not reveal every plan just to prove that you have one. Build carefully. Choose wisely. Let your decisions become the evidence, because eventually people stop asking what you might become when your actions make the answer impossible to ignore. So if this video gave you a new perspective, subscribe to the channel and become part of this community. Click the link in the description box or comment section to tip us on Ko-fi to support us so we can create more videos like this. Hit the like button if you found value here, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might be exactly what another person needs today. And remember this, they can watch your next move. They can analyze your direction. They can make their predictions, but they do not get to make the decision for you. That part is yours. And sometimes one courageous decision is all it takes to change the entire story. God bless you.